Thanksgiving was always a big deal in my family. My name is Claire. I am 32 years old, and I grew up in Michigan in one of those tight family circles where everyone lives close, everyone knows everyone, and every holiday gathering is treated like a mandatory event. In my family, skipping a holiday was not just a choice. It was a crime. If you did not show up, you would hear about it for months, especially from Grandma Helen. She was the type of grandmother who could guilt you with a single look and still smile like she was being sweet. On my mom's side, I have a cousin named Vanessa. She is 2 years younger than me, but it always felt like she was the one everyone watched, everyone praised, everyone protected. Since we were kids, she was the golden child. The one who could do no wrong. The one everyone forgave. The one who always got the benefit of the doubt, even when she did not deserve it. Vanessa has always been beautiful, not just normal pretty, but the kind of beauty that makes people stop talking mid-sentence. Long blonde hair. Green eyes. A perfect body. The kind of woman who could wear something ridiculous and still look like she stepped out of a magazine. And the worst part was that she knew it. She did not pretend to be humble. She did not act shy about it. She understood the power she had, and she used it like a weapon. When we were teenagers, I noticed how guys acted around her. They would laugh harder at her jokes. They would stare at her like she was the only person in the room. Adults would call her charming and sweet, even when she was being rude. It was like she lived in a different world where the rules did not apply. At first, I told myself it was annoying but harmless. I thought, she is just the pretty cousin. That is life. I did not realize back then that she was going to turn my love life into her personal game. The first time it happened, I was 23. I had just started dating a guy named Marcus. Marcus was a graphic designer. He was gentle, kind, and a little shy. He did not try to dominate conversations. He listened. He asked questions. He was the type of guy who made you feel safe because he did not play mind games. We had been dating around 4 months when Thanksgiving came around. I was nervous about bringing him because my family is loud, messy, and full of opinions. They love teasing, and they think it is funny to ask personal questions at the dinner table. I did not want Marcus to feel uncomfortable. But Marcus insisted. He told me he wanted to meet everyone. He said he was serious about me. Hearing that made me happy, but it also made me terrified. Because deep down, I already knew what Vanessa was like. That year, Thanksgiving dinner was at my Aunt Diane's house. Vanessa arrived wearing a tiny red dress that looked like something you would wear to a club, not a family dinner with mashed potatoes and stuffing. It was too short, too tight, and clearly meant to grab attention. Nobody said a word, of course. Nobody ever called Vanessa out. My mom just looked at me with that tired expression that said, "Here we go again," and then went back to cooking like she had accepted her fate. After dinner, Marcus and I sat on the couch with some relatives. People were talking about football. My uncle was explaining some game like it was life or death. I was half listening, mostly just enjoying the fact that Marcus seemed to be doing okay. Then Vanessa walked over and squeezed herself onto the couch with us. Not beside us, not near us. Between us. She literally placed herself right in the middle, pushing her body between mine and Marcus's like I was not even there. Her leg pressed against his leg. Her shoulder leaned toward him. Her perfume filled the air like she had sprayed half a bottle. She started asking Marcus questions about his job. She laughed at everything he said. She touched his arm when she laughed, like it was natural and friendly. She leaned forward and moved in ways that made it hard not to notice her body. And the whole time, I sat there, watching, feeling my face burn, feeling invisible in my own relationship. Marcus looked uncomfortable at first. I could tell he was trying to be polite. But Vanessa had a way of pulling people in. She did not give you space to step away. She made you feel like you were rude if you tried to escape. And she knew exactly how to make a man feel special. Later that night, I went to the kitchen to refill my drink, and I found them there. Alone. Vanessa's hand rested on Marcus's chest like she belonged there. She was laughing, looking up at him with those bright eyes, acting like she was the only woman in the world. When they noticed me, Vanessa smiled the sweetest, most innocent smile. She said she was just telling Marcus how lucky he was to have me. Marcus looked guilty, like a kid caught doing something wrong, but he did not say much. He just mumbled something and stepped away. I wanted to scream, but I stayed quiet because that is what I always did. I swallowed my anger and tried to act normal, because acting normal was easier than fighting Vanessa in front of everyone. 3 weeks later, Marcus broke up with me. He told me he needed space. He said he was not ready for something serious. He said he had a lot going on. It was the usual list of excuses people give when they want to leave without admitting why. 2 months after that, I saw him tagged in one of Vanessa's Instagram photos. They were at a bar downtown. His arm was around her waist. She looked happy, proud, like she had one. And that is when I realized it was not an accident. It was a pattern. It did not matter who I dated. It did not matter how serious the relationship was. If I brought a man to a holiday, Vanessa would treat it like an opportunity. She would arrive dressed like she was going to a nightclub. She would focus her attention on my boyfriend like a hunter choosing a target. And before the night ended, she would have them laughing with her, leaning toward her, looking at her the way they were supposed to look at me. Thanksgiving, Christmas, Easter, 4th of July. Any family event could turn into the same nightmare. When I was 25, I dated a teacher named Ryan. Ryan was sweet and responsible. He talked about his students like he truly cared. I thought he was different. I thought he would not fall for Vanessa. At one holiday gathering, Vanessa cornered him near the dessert table. She talked to him for 30 minutes about her charity work with underprivileged kids. She made herself sound kind, thoughtful, and passionate. She said she wanted to change the world. Ryan looked impressed. Vanessa asked him for his number so they could coordinate a volunteer opportunity. Later, I found out they had been texting for weeks. Then there was David, an accountant. Vanessa asked David to help her move furniture at her apartment. She told him she did not have anyone else to help. David agreed like he was being a hero. I was not invited. Nobody even told me. I only found out because David mentioned it casually later, like it was no big deal. When I asked why he went without telling me, he got defensive. He said I was jealous. He said I was controlling. He said Vanessa was just family and I needed to relax. That was the most painful part. Not just that Vanessa did it, but that the guys always blamed me for reacting. They acted like my feelings were a problem and Vanessa's behavior was normal. There were more men after that. James. Tyler. Christopher. Different names, same story. Every time Vanessa would do her thing. Touching, laughing, leaning in close. Making herself the center. And somehow, the men would start acting like I was being dramatic if I noticed. My family did not help either. My mom would pull me aside and tell me Vanessa was young and did not mean anything by it. Like being young made it okay to steal someone's partner. My aunt would tell me I should not bring men around if I could not handle competition. Like the problem was my weakness, not Vanessa's cruelty. My grandma told me I needed to be more feminine. She said maybe if I acted more like a proper woman, I could keep a man interested. Imagine hearing that from your own grandmother. Imagine being told that the reason your cousin keeps taking your boyfriends is because you are not feminine enough. I felt like my family was blaming me for being hurt. Like my pain was an inconvenience they wanted me to hide. After a while, I stopped bringing dates to family events. For years, I showed up alone. I told everyone I was focusing on my career. I told them I was happy being single. I pretended I did not care. But the truth was, I did date. I just kept it away from my family. I refused to give Vanessa another chance to ruin something good. I thought if she cannot meet my boyfriend, she cannot take him. That was my way of protecting myself. Then I turned 31, and I met Trevor. Trevor felt like the kind of man you meet once in your life. He was a doctor. He was funny, kind, and handsome. He had a calm confidence, like he did not need to prove anything. He listened when I talked. He treated me with respect. He made me believe love could be safe. We were together for 8 months, and it was the healthiest relationship I had ever had. No drama. No games. No disappearing for days. No making me feel small. Trevor kept asking to meet my family. At first, I avoided it. I made excuses. I told him my family was busy, or we were busy, or the timing was bad. But eventually Christmas came closer, and I could not keep avoiding it forever. So I told him the truth. I sat him down and explained Vanessa. I explained the history, the pattern, the pain. I told him exactly what she did and how every relationship I brought around her ended badly. I told him she would probably try something. I said I needed him to ignore her, stay close to me, and not fall for her behavior. I said it very seriously because I was terrified. Trevor laughed. Not a cruel laugh, but a confident one. He told me he was a grown man. He said he loved me. He said he was not going to let my cousin seduce him at a Christmas gathering. He told me to stop worrying. I wanted to believe him so badly. Christmas Eve came, and we drove to my parents' house. My stomach was tight the entire drive. I felt sick with nerves. Trevor held my hand and told me it would be okay. Vanessa was already there when we arrived. She was wearing a white sweater dress that fit her like it was painted on. She had heels that made her legs look endless. Her hair was styled in perfect waves. She looked like she belonged in a photo shoot, not in a living room full of relatives. When she saw Trevor, her expression changed instantly. Her eyes lit up like she just found a new toy. She walked over, smiled brightly, and greeted him like she was meeting someone famous. She hugged him, and the hug lasted a little too long. I noticed. Of course I noticed. Trevor stayed polite, but he kept his distance. He put his arm around my waist. He kissed my forehead. He stayed by my side. For a moment, I felt relief. I thought maybe I had finally found someone who would not fall into Vanessa's trap. But Vanessa was patient. She always was. All evening, she circled us like she was waiting for the right moment. She joined every conversation we were in. She laughed at Trevor's jokes like they were the funniest thing on earth. She asked him about his work. She found ways to keep his attention on her. Then she spilled wine on her dress. She made a big show of it. She acted embarrassed and helpless. And then she said something ridiculous. She asked Trevor to help her clean it because he was a doctor and doctors know how to deal with stains. It made no sense. But Vanessa did not need things to make sense. She just needed an excuse to get him alone. I watched Trevor hesitate. He looked at me. I could see him thinking, should I do this or not? And then he followed her to the kitchen. They were gone for 15 minutes. When they came back, Vanessa's dress was magically fine, and Trevor looked flushed, like his body was warm. He told me she was asking medical questions about her mom's knee surgery. He said it was nothing. He said I was imagining things. But I saw it. I recognized it. That look in his eyes. The same curiosity, the same interest, The same pull that the other guys had shown before everything fell apart. We left early. I said I had a headache. On the drive home, Trevor was quiet, and I cried in the passenger seat. I felt stupid for thinking it would be different. Trevor swore nothing happened. He swore he loved me. He said Vanessa was just friendly. He said I was overreacting. But I could feel the shift. Once the shift happens, you cannot undo it. Something had changed. We broke up in February. He said he needed to focus on his residency. He said he had no time for a serious relationship. Again, the excuses. Again, the polite ending. Again, me being left behind with questions. In March, I saw him at a restaurant with a blonde woman. It was not Vanessa, but the message still landed the same. He had moved on. He chose a type. And Vanessa had been the one who introduced that type into the space between us. After Trevor, I was exhausted. I stopped dating for a while. I stopped going to family events. I told my mom I was busy with work and I would visit when I could. She sounded disappointed, but I did not care. I was done being humiliated. I was done walking into a house full of people who watched Vanessa hurt me and acted like it was funny. Then something unexpected happened. I started volunteering at a literacy program at the local library. I needed something in my life that felt meaningful. Something that did not revolve around my family or dating drama. The program helped people improve their reading and writing skills. One part of it involved writing letters to inmates who were trying to learn and grow while in prison. The idea was to encourage them, practice writing, and offer connection in a positive way. I signed up because I thought it would be a good cause. Also, I was lonely in a quiet way I did not like admitting. I needed something to look forward to. They matched me with an inmate named Michael. Michael was 34. He was finishing the last 2 years of a 7-year sentence for armed robbery. That information scared me a little at first, but I reminded myself that the whole point of the program was second chances and growth. His first letter was short. He thanked me for volunteering. He said he hoped to improve his writing before he got out. He kept it simple. I wrote back. I told him about my job. I was a project manager at a tech company. I told him I liked hiking. I told him about Michigan weather. Nothing too personal. Just normal conversation. He replied with more detail. He wrote about growing up in Detroit. He wrote about making bad choices when he was younger. He wrote about prison forcing him to sit with his thoughts and face who he really was. His writing was not perfect, but it was honest. There was something raw and real about it. He did not try to impress me. He did not try to sound like a hero. He just told the truth. We kept writing. At first it was once a week, then twice a week, then it became almost daily. I started looking forward to his letters more than anything else. His words felt like a window into a world that was harsh but honest. Michael told me about the books he was reading. He told me about anger management classes and plans for the future. He said when he got out, he wanted to work in construction. Maybe he would go to community college someday. He had an aunt in Grand Rapids who would let him stay until he got on his feet. Then I started telling him about my life too. I told him about my family. I told him about Vanessa. I told him how small and invisible she made me feel. I told him how angry I was and how tired. Michael did not judge me. He did not tell me to ignore her. He did not tell me to be more confident like everyone else did. He did not act like I was dramatic. He said something simple that hit me like a truth I had been avoiding. He said my cousin sounded miserable. He said she probably only felt good when she made other people feel bad. And he told me that was not about me. That was about her. Hearing it like that, plain and clear, helped more than any advice I ever got from my family or friends. We wrote to each other for 8 months. Somewhere along the way, the letters started feeling less like a volunteer project and more like a friendship. And then, without warning, it started feeling like something deeper. Michael was funny. He was thoughtful. He was vulnerable in a way most men I dated never were. Maybe because he was in prison and had already lost so much, he did not bother pretending. He did not hide behind fake confidence. One day, he wrote that he would be released in 2 months. He asked if I would be willing to meet him in person, just for coffee, no pressure. He said he understood if I said no. He said he knew it was complicated. I said yes. I still do not know why I said yes so quickly. Maybe I was curious. Maybe I was lonely. Maybe I wanted something that felt like mine. Something outside my family's control. Something Vanessa could not reach. Michael got out in October. We met at a coffee shop in Grand Rapids. I was nervous the entire time driving there. I had never met him face to face. All I had was a small, blurry photo from his first letter. Then he walked in, and I recognized him immediately. He was tall with broad shoulders. His hair was dark and cut short. He had a nervous smile, the kind you get when you want to seem calm but your heart is racing. He was handsome in an unexpected way. Not polished like the men I used to date. More real, more grounded. We talked for 3 hours. It was easy, comfortable. Nothing like the scary meeting I imagined. He told me about learning to live outside again. He told me about his drywall job. He told me about living with his aunt. I told him about my work, my apartment, and yes, my terrible family. Before we left, he asked if he could see me again. I said yes. We started dating, even though calling it dating felt strange at first. It felt more like building something slowly, brick by brick, with honesty. We went to dinner. We went to movies. We walked along the river. We talked for hours. Michael listened in a way that made me feel seen. He did not play games. He said what he meant. Sometimes he could tell I was anxious before I even spoke. He knew when I needed space, and he knew when I needed a hug. It felt almost scary to be understood that well. In November, my mom called and asked if I was coming to Thanksgiving. I had been avoiding family gatherings for almost a year. My mom told me everyone missed me. Grandma Helen was asking about me. The guilt started crawling into my chest, like it always did. I told my mom I would think about it. That night, Michael and I were in bed when I brought it up. He asked why I was hesitant, and I told him again about Vanessa and the pattern. I told him how I could not handle watching another relationship get destroyed. Michael listened quietly. Then he said something that shocked me. He told me to take him. At first I laughed because I thought he was joking, but he was serious. He told me he wanted to meet my family, and he wanted to see Vanessa for himself. I tried to talk him out of it. I warned him. I told him Vanessa would come after him hard. I told him she would flirt, touch, and try to isolate him. I told him she had destroyed every relationship I ever brought around her. Michael shrugged like it was no big deal. He said he spent 7 years in prison and he could handle my cousin. Part of me wanted to protect him. Another part of me thought, what is the worst that can happen? If Vanessa somehow manages to ruin this too, then I will finally cut my family off completely, and honestly, I was already close to doing that anyway. So I said yes. Thanksgiving morning, I woke up with a knot in my stomach. Michael looked calm. He wore a simple button-down shirt and jeans. He shaved and fixed his hair. He looked like a normal guy you would bring home, not like a man carrying a past. On the drive, I warned him one last time. I begged him to stay close and not fall for her tricks. Michael took my hand and promised he was not going anywhere. When we arrived, my mom hugged me like I had been missing for years. My dad shook Michael's hand and asked what he did for work. Michael said construction, and my dad immediately started talking about some deck project like men always do. For a moment, it felt normal. Then Vanessa walked in from the kitchen. She wore a tight black dress with a deep neckline and high heels. Her makeup was flawless. Her hair was perfect. She looked like she was going to a fancy party, not a family dinner. When she saw Michael, I could practically see her brain turning. She walked over with that bright, predatory smile. She introduced herself and shook his hand. She held his hand a second too long. Then she looked at me with fake innocence and said she had heard nothing about him because I kept my life so private. Her tone was sweet, but it was a small attack. A reminder that she still believed she had access to everything. She asked how long we had been together. She asked how we met. I hesitated, not sure how to explain it in front of my family. But Michael answered calmly and said we met through a pen pal program. Vanessa's eyes lit up like she just found a new angle. She acted like it was adorable. She made it sound playful and cute, like it was a fun story, not a real connection. Then she started her routine. She asked Michael about his job, his childhood, his hobbies. She laughed. She touched his arm. She leaned in close. She did everything she always did. But this time something was different. Michael stayed polite, but he did not get pulled in. He answered briefly and then turned his attention back to me or other relatives. He kept his hand on my lower back. He stayed steady. At one point, Vanessa suggested Michael help her get extra chairs from the garage. Michael calmly said he thought her dad could handle it. He stayed beside me. I watched Vanessa's smile tighten. I could tell she was frustrated. She was not used to a man saying no to her. During dinner, Vanessa sat across from us and kept trying to pull Michael into conversation. She asked about sports, movies, music. She told stories designed to make her sound exciting. Michael nodded politely. He smiled sometimes. But he spent most of his attention talking to my uncle about fishing and asking my grandma about her stuffing recipe. He held my hand under the table. I felt like I was breathing after holding my breath for years. After dinner, everyone moved to the living room. Vanessa cornered Michael near the drink table. My heart pounded. That moment, the private corner conversation, was usually when the end began. I watched her lean in. I watched her touch his chest. I watched her whisper into his ear. Then Michael stepped back. He said something I could not hear, and then he walked away and came to sit beside me on the couch like nothing happened. Vanessa stayed standing there looking shocked, like a magician whose trick failed in front of an audience. My mom leaned toward me and whispered that she liked this one. I almost cried. We stayed another hour. Vanessa kept trying, but Michael did not move. He treated her like she was just another person in the room. Not the main character. Not the prize. Not the center of attention. When we finally left, I felt lighter than I had felt in years. In the car, I asked Michael what Vanessa said to him. He hesitated. Then he told me. Vanessa told him I was damaged and insecure. She told him he could do better. Then she gave him her number. Hearing that made my stomach drop, but I also felt something else. Rage, yes, but also relief. Because now I knew she really was the problem. It was not in my head. I asked Michael what he said back. Michael told me he said he was not interested. He told her she should work on being a better person before trying to ruin anyone else's life. I started crying, not the sad kind. The release kind. Like a tight rope inside me finally snapped and I could breathe again. Michael pulled over and held me while I cried. He did not rush me. He did not tell me to stop. He just held me, steady and quiet. When I calmed down, I asked him why he did not fall for it. Every other guy did. Vanessa was beautiful and charming. She knew exactly what to say. Why was he different? Michael looked at me like the answer was obvious. He told me prison teaches you how to spot people who are full of garbage. He said Vanessa was miserable, and you could see it in her eyes. He said she was not truly confident or happy. She was desperate. And desperate people were boring. Then he said something that made my chest ache in a good way. He said he loved me. He asked why he would want someone like her when he already had me. I kissed him in the car on the side of the road, like I was trying to say thank you without words. I thought that was the end. I thought finally Vanessa lost. Finally I won. Finally I had someone who chose me. But life does not always let you rest. A week later, my mom called, sounding upset. Vanessa had been crying at her house. Vanessa told her I brought an ex-convict to Thanksgiving without warning anyone. Vanessa said she looked Michael up online and found his record. She said she felt unsafe and disrespected. I was furious. Michael served his time. He was building a life. He did nothing wrong. Vanessa was only upset because she could not control him. But my mom sighed like she was tired of drama and said bringing a felon to a family event without telling anyone was not okay. She said my dad was upset. She said Grandma Helen was worried. I hung up. For 3 weeks, I did not speak to my family. My phone filled with messages from relatives. Some said I was selfish. Some said I should have warned them. Some talked about safety like Michael was a monster. Only my younger brother texted me something that felt honest. He said Vanessa was being dramatic and Michael seemed cool. Michael felt horrible. He told me he should have insisted we warn my family. He said he should have known his past would be used against him. I told him it was not his fault. My family was always looking for a reason to protect Vanessa and blame me. They just found a new excuse. Still, it hurt. It hurt that I finally found someone good and my family could not be happy. It hurt that Vanessa could fail to steal him and still find a way to become the victim. When Christmas came, I did not go. I spent it with Michael at his aunt's house. She made a simple meal, and nobody asked me rude questions. Nobody judged Michael for his past. Nobody defended Vanessa. It was the best Christmas I ever had. In January, my cousin Jessica called me. Jessica was one of the few family members I always liked. She was kinder, more reasonable. When she called, she told me she needed to talk in person. She said it was important. Something in her voice made me agree. We met at a coffee shop. Jessica looked nervous. She ordered a latte but barely touched it. She told me she needed to tell me something about Vanessa. And she warned me I would not like it. Jessica explained that Vanessa started therapy the year before because she was having panic attacks. Her mom, Aunt Diane, pushed her to go. Jessica said the therapist diagnosed Vanessa with something connected to insecurity and needing constant validation from men. Vanessa needed attention to feel good about herself. I told Jessica that was not an excuse. Jessica agreed and said she was not trying to excuse Vanessa. She just wanted me to understand what was going on behind the scenes. Then Jessica told me something that chilled my blood. After Thanksgiving, Vanessa broke down because Michael was not interested in her. Vanessa could not handle losing. She felt invisible for the first time in her life, and it destroyed her. Then it got worse. Vanessa started stalking Michael online. Not casual searching. Real stalking. She found his old Facebook from before prison. She found articles about his arrest. She tracked down his ex-girlfriend and messaged her, asking questions. Jessica said Vanessa was obsessed and desperate to find dirt on him. Vanessa wanted to prove to the family that Michael was dangerous, or at least prove that I made a horrible choice, so Vanessa could stay on top. Jessica said Vanessa was the one who told my mom about Michael's record. Vanessa printed articles and showed them to Grandma Helen. I felt sick. Then Jessica said Vanessa was planning to go to the police and file a complaint, claiming Michael threatened her at Thanksgiving. Jessica believed Vanessa wanted to get him in trouble, maybe even send him back to prison. I wanted to believe it was too far, even for Vanessa. But Jessica looked at me with tears in her eyes and said Vanessa was not thinking straight. Desperate people do crazy things. I left the coffee shop in a fog and called Michael immediately. Michael stayed quiet for a long time. Then he said he knew something like that could happen. He said people do not like when ex-cons try to live normal lives. There is always someone ready to tear you down. He said we needed to do something. I said we had to stop her. Michael said there was nothing to stop if he did nothing wrong. He said a false report would get thrown out, but I told him it would still follow him. It would still create problems. Then Michael suggested something that surprised me. He said, what if we let her do it? He said if she files a false report, she would have to put her lies in writing. Then we could prove she was lying. I asked how. Michael opened his phone and showed me a voice memo. He told me he recorded his conversation with Vanessa by the drink table at Thanksgiving. He said he records a lot of conversations now, just in case, because prison teaches you to protect yourself. He played it for me. Vanessa's voice was clear. She insulted me, tried to pull him away, and gave him her number. Michael's voice was calm and firm. He rejected her and told her to become a better person instead of ruining lives. The recording was proof that Vanessa was the one being aggressive, not him. If she claimed he threatened her, the recording would contradict her story. So we decided to wait. If Vanessa filed the report, we would use the recording. If she did not, we would move on. 3 weeks passed, and nothing happened. I started hoping Jessica was wrong. Then my mom called again. Vanessa had been in a car accident. Not a serious one, but she was in the hospital with a minor injury. My mom said Vanessa was shaken up and wanted to see me. I said no at first. My mom got angry. She called me cruel. She said Vanessa was still family and I needed to put my petty grudge aside. The guilt hit me, like it always did. My family trained me to feel guilty for boundaries. They trained me to believe protecting myself was selfish. So I went to the hospital. Not because I wanted to comfort Vanessa, but because I wanted to prove, at least to myself, that I was not heartless. Vanessa sat in a private room with a bandage on her forehead. She looked surprised when I walked in. She told me she did not think I would come. I told her I almost did not. Vanessa looked down at her hands and said she needed to tell me something. Then, for the first time in my life, Vanessa said words I never expected to hear. She admitted she was messed up. She said therapy was showing her that she used male attention to avoid dealing with trauma. She said it was not an excuse for what she did to me. She said she was jealous of me for a long time. She said I always had my life together. A good job. My own place. A personality people liked. Vanessa said she felt like she had nothing except her looks. And she was terrified that one day even that would disappear and she would become invisible. So she tried to prove she was better than me by taking the one thing I had that she wanted to control, my relationships. She apologized. She cried. I stood there, looking at the person who caused me years of humiliation and pain. I expected to feel victorious. I expected to feel satisfaction. Instead, I felt tired. I told her I did not forgive her. I told her I did not know if I ever would. But I said I appreciated her finally admitting what she did. Then I told her something else. I told her I hoped she got the help she needed. I told her I hoped she learned who she was beyond her looks. But I made it clear I would not be part of that journey. I told her not to contact me or Michael. I told her to leave us alone. I walked out. In the hallway, Jessica hugged me and said she was proud of me. I asked Jessica what caused Vanessa's sudden shift. Jessica looked uncomfortable and told me Vanessa's therapist got involved. The police had contacted the therapist because Vanessa scheduled an appointment to file a report against Michael. The therapist convinced Vanessa not to do it and pushed her to face what she was really feeling. My stomach turned. She really was going to do it. She really was willing to ruin Michael's life. Jessica said Vanessa backed down. She did not file anything. And yes, maybe that counted for something, but I could not stop thinking about how close it came. I called Michael and told him everything. Michael stayed quiet, then said maybe it was finally over. I said I thought so. Then Michael told me he had something to ask, that he asked me to move in with him. He said he spent 7 years alone in a cell, and he did not want to waste time. He said he loved me and wanted to build a life with me. I said yes. I moved in with Michael in March. We found a small apartment near his work. It was not fancy, but it was ours. We adopted a shelter dog, a mixed breed named Rocket. He had been abandoned before, and we understood him in that way. We started building a quiet life, the kind of life that feels boring in the best way. I kept distance from my family. I did not talk to Vanessa. I did not go to Easter. I did not go to Mother's Day. I kept contact with Jessica and my younger brother, but the rest of my family could wait. In June, my mom called again and invited me to a 4th of July barbecue. I said no. My mom cried and said I was tearing the family apart. I told her the family was already torn. I was just the first person willing to admit it. Then something else happened. Vanessa sent me a letter, a real handwritten letter in the mail. I almost threw it away, but I read it. The letter was long and raw. Vanessa wrote about her childhood. She wrote that when she was 12, she was sexually abused by a family friend. She wrote that when she told her parents, nobody believed her. She wrote about learning that people valued her looks above everything else. She wrote about understanding that her body became her currency, like it was the one thing she could use to get attention, love, and power. She wrote about years of therapy, medication, and trying to understand why she felt broken. She wrote about me. She wrote that watching me succeed while she fell apart made her feel worthless. She wrote that she convinced herself that if she could take away my happiness, she would feel better. She said she did not expect forgiveness. She said she just wanted me to understand. At the end of the letter, she included a printed photo from one of the times she stole a boyfriend from me, David. On the back of the photo, she wrote that she was sorry she made me feel invisible. She said the truth was that she was the one who felt invisible. I showed the letter to Michael. He read it carefully and asked what I wanted to do. I told him I did not know. Michael reminded me I did not owe Vanessa anything. Not forgiveness. Not understanding. Not another chance. He said people can change, because he did. But change is hard, and not everyone does the work. He said if Vanessa changed or did not change, it was not my job to fix her. He was right. I wrote Vanessa a short letter back. I told her I read what she wrote. I told her I was sorry for what happened to her. But I told her I still needed distance. I said maybe someday we could have some relationship, but not now. Vanessa wrote back and said she understood. That was about 1.5 years ago. Then last month, Jessica called me again. She told me Vanessa was engaged. Not to a man. To a woman named Monica. Jessica said Vanessa met Monica in a therapy group. They had been together for 1 year. Jessica said Vanessa seemed calmer, happier, and more genuine. Jessica said Vanessa wanted to invite me to the wedding but was too nervous to ask directly. I told Jessica I would think about it. That night, I talked to Michael. He said it was my choice and he would support me no matter what. I asked if he would come with me if I decided to go. Michael smiled and said he would not miss the chance to watch me face my family again. The next day, I called Vanessa. We talked for 2 hours. It was strange hearing her voice without anger. She told me about Monica. She told me therapy was helping. She told me she was trying to be different. I told her about my life with Michael. I told her about our apartment and Rocket. For the first time, it felt like talking to a normal person, not an enemy. At the end, Vanessa asked if I would come to the wedding. She said she would understand if I said no, but it would mean a lot if I was there. I said yes. The wedding is in 2 months. I do not know how I will feel when I see my family again. I do not know how it will feel to see Vanessa in a wedding dress, promising she changed. I do not know if I fully trust her. I do not know if people truly change, or if they just learn how to hide their worst parts better. But I know this. For the first time in my life, I am not afraid of what my family thinks. Because I have Michael. I have Rocket. I have a quiet life that feels safe and real. Michael says life after prison teaches you to take things one day at a time. He says people are messy and complicated, and sometimes they disappoint you. But sometimes they surprise you. He says I surprised him. He says he never thought he would leave prison and find someone who loved him despite his past. I tell him he surprised me too. Because he was the first person who ever chose me over Vanessa. The first person who saw through her games and decided I was worth more. Right now, we sit on our couch with Rocket curled up between us. We argue about whether we should get a cat. Michael says yes. I say we already have a dog. Michael says that is exactly why we need a cat, for balance. I laugh because this is my life now. A normal argument about pets with a man who spent 7 years in prison and somehow became the most stable, honest person I have ever known. My phone buzzes. It is a text from Vanessa, thanking me again for saying yes to the wedding. I reply that I will see her there. I do not know what will happen at that wedding. I do not know if Vanessa and I will ever have a real relationship. I do not know if my family will ever understand why I needed to protect myself from them for so long. But I do know that I am not worried the way I used to be. Because I already have what I fought for all those years. I have a life that is mine. And that is enough. Actually, it is more than enough. It is everything.